What's a strange phrase or inside joke your family used that turned out to mean something else entirely? Growing up, my family had this weird saying whenever someone was crying or upset. They'd say that person was singing the pineapple song. Like, my mom would come home, see me crying over something stupid, and she'd be like, "Aw, is someone singing the pineapple song today?" It was our family's way of acknowledging when someone was sad without making it this huge deal. I never questioned it as a kid TBH. Just thought it was one of those random family things, you know? Like how some families have weird nicknames for regular stuff. My sister Brinley would use it too, especially when I was being dramatic about something. "Oh look, Jacob's singing the pineapple song again because mom said no PS5. And I'd get even more upset because nobody likes being called out when they're already emotional. It wasn't just for kids either. I remember when my dad lost out on this promotion he really wanted. My mom whispered to us, "Dad might be singing the pineapple song tonight, so let's all be extra nice." We ordered his favorite takeout and let him pick the movie without arguing. It was just our way of saying someone needed extra gentleness. The phrase was like this emotional shorthand in our house. If I texted my mom, "Might be singing the pineapple song RN," after bombing a test, she knew exactly what level of comfort to provide. Sometimes she'd send back a pineapple emoji, which was her way of saying, "It's okay to be sad, I get it." When I was around 14, I actually tried to figure out where it came from. I straight up asked my parents if there was a real pineapple song, thinking maybe it was from some old movie or TV show. My dad just shrugged and said, "It's just what my family always said." My mom nodded and added, "It's a nicer way to talk about being upset." And that was it. I figured it was just some random phrase that stuck around for generations. I even tried Googling it once, thinking maybe other families said it too. Found absolutely nothing. I decided it was cooler that way, like our own secret family language that nobody else understood. When friends would come over and hear us use it, they'd always ask what it meant. And I'd feel this weird pride explaining our quirky tradition. Fast forward to a few months ago. I'm home from my freshman year of college for winter break. My parents are hosting this holiday dinner thing, and my grandma, Dad's mom, is visiting from Arizona. She rarely travels because she's 86 and it's hard for her, but she made the trip for Christmas this year. The dinner was going great until my cousin's 3-year-old had this epic meltdown because IDK toddler reasons. As my aunt is trying to calm him down in the other room, my dad casually says, "Sounds like someone's singing the pineapple song in there." And my grandma freezes, like fork halfway to her mouth, completely still. She looks at my dad and goes, "You still say that? After all these years?" My dad looked confused and said, "Say what? The pineapple song thing? Yeah, we always say that." My grandma put down her fork and just stared at him. "Do you even know where that comes from, Dwayne?" My dad shrugged and said he always assumed it was just some family saying she or grandpa had started. That's when things got intense. Grandma took a deep breath and said, "I never told you because you were too young to understand, but I guess enough time has passed now." She explained that before she met my grandpa, she'd been engaged to another man named Timothy back in the 1950s. They were super in love, planning their wedding, the whole thing, but Timothy got drafted and sent to Korea. While he was deployed, they would write letters constantly. In one letter, Timothy told her about this local Korean song he'd heard that had made him emotional because it reminded him of her. He couldn't pronounce the real name, so he just called it the pineapple song, because the melody reminded him of a radio jingle for pineapples he'd heard back home. Whenever he felt homesick or scared, he wrote, he would hum what he remembered of that song. In his letters, he started using it as code. If he'd had a particularly bad day, he'd just write, "I sang the pineapple song a lot today," and my grandma would know he was struggling. One day, she received a letter from Timothy's commanding officer instead of Timothy. He'd been killed in action. The officer wrote that in Timothy's personal effects, they'd found a half-written letter to my grandma that said, "Had to sing the pineapple song this morning, but thinking of you always makes it stop." By this point, everyone at the table is dead silent. My grandma continues that when she eventually married my grandpa years later and they had my dad, she would sometimes catch herself crying over Timothy. To explain her tears to young Dwayne, my dad, she would simply say she was singing the pineapple song, a phrase that to her meant grieving someone you loved deeply. She never realized my dad had picked up the phrase and continued using it, completely unaware of its origin. She assumed he'd forgotten it as he grew up. All these years, she says, "Whenever you said someone was singing the pineapple song, you were unknowingly keeping alive the last words of the first man I ever loved, a man who died before he could come home to me."